Look, I'll get onto the big stuff in a minute, but really, this gives me the pip. Aren't you sick of these anti-Trump hysterics and hypocrites? I mean, you don't have to like the US president, but do you really have to think that just because of him, the whole US has suddenly become a hellhole and this and that? I mean, you look at this. It's one of my Murdoch media colleagues, Giles Coren of The Times in London, writing, "This morning I cancelled our family holiday to America. I cannot, in good conscience, take my wife and children there and tell them they will be safe. The United States is no longer a place for decent people." Yet this is the same Giles Coren taking his family to the Gulf state of Oman without a worry that Oman is a country that bans homosexuality, allows marital rape, and has an estimated 33,000 modern slaves. Joining me from London is Patrick Christie, star presenter of GB News. Sorry, I had to get that off my chest, Patrick, but what does this hypocrisy tell you?
Oh, it's absolutely ridiculous. I'm surprised that Giles is still wanting to live in Britain, actually. I mean, we've got 85 Sharia courts here. People are arrested for social media posts. We cancel elections, very easily that his family, hopefully not though, obviously, but other people's families have been victims of grooming gangs. I mean, there's been a World Cup in Qatar as well. I bet he would have been perfectly happy to go over and watch England play football in stadiums built by slaves. But it's not as bad, actually, as the person who called up a radio show yesterday to say they'd cancelled their son's sports college to an American university because of what Trump is doing. I mean, you've got Giles Coren there. Sorry, kids, no Disneyland for you because Orange Man banned. And then you've got these people
sick.
I mean, it's ridiculous, right? I mean, unless Giles was planning on putting on some camouflage gear, arming himself, attending an immigration protest and harassing an immigration enforcement agent, then I think there's a very good chance his family would have been okay. It's kind of performative outrage, isn't it? And this simpering weird mindset that infects a lot of these liberal elites. It's the key words there. Decent people, and this is how performative it is. People are in a competition to show everybody else how decent they are. Oh, I couldn't possibly go to America under these situations. Well, yeah, but the weather in Oman's nice, isn't it, Giles?
Let's more serious stuff. I'm building up here. The King, the King. Now, has been a global warming alarmist. You know that. He's invited various stars like Rod Stewart and Kate Winslet, and even Australia's High Commissioner, believe it or not quite a star, but a former Premier, to the premiere of a new documentary that tells of his long history of activism for the planet, from climate activism to sustainable farming. And it features, of course, his apocalyptic mindset. Here he is.
I think we need to follow harmony if we're going to ensure that this planet can support so many. It's unlike it as anywhere else.
The documentary also talks about that the King has been mocked, hurt, particularly when he said he talked to plants. But how does his activism seem now?
Well, it's quivering on the edge of political activism is the problem. You can't really fit more than a Rizzler paper between, climate activism and political activism these days. Also slightly hypocritical, given that he does take helicopters everywhere for his own security, of course, which I don't begrudge him, but, talking about the planet all the time. I mean, it'd be nice if he came out against the deal to give away the Chagos Islands to China, Mauritius, because obviously that would mean that they'd get a hold of the most protected marine reef in the world, but he won't get involved in that, talking of things like more solar and wind farms. Again, it's turned out in recent days that China is using those apparently to spy on us. They've implemented kill switches to turn them off. They're built using slave labor. Is the King going to point that out as well? Apparently, during poignant moments of this documentary, Charles laments the loss of life at Highgrove, noting that when he first moved in there nearly 5 decades ago, he could hear the cuckoos and see the grasshoppers. Well, thousands of working class people used to be able to see their jobs down coal pits, but they've closed because of net zero, haven't they? People in Scotland used to be able to, see their jobs and have decent house prices, but they've lost all of that because the oil industry's collapsed. And I think he needs to be very careful here because the King is seen as being out of touch on various things like illegal immigration. He calls it irregular migration. He keeps talking about Islam when a lot of people feel as though we do have some quite big societal issues in relation to that in this country. The documentary does apparently feature eco projects in Guyana as well. Well, the British taxpayers just paid 50 million quid for a road to nowhere in Guyana that saw people hack through the rainforest to build a road that, you guessed it, goes nowhere. So I very much doubt that's made the director's cut.
Yeah, but, I wonder how many film critics are actually going to point these things out. Most of the coverage has been quite deferential that I've seen. We've seen, Patrick, the One Nation Party, our One Nation Party, trying to do here what Nigel Farage's Reform Party is trying to do in Britain, like come from virtually nowhere to threaten the big parties and do something about immigration and these net zero policies as well. In fact, Reform is now leading in the polls in Britain, has for quite a while now, and has been luring across politicians from the Conservatives. This week you've had former Home Secretary Suelle Braverman. She was the third sitting Conservative MP now to defect to Reform. Here she is.
And there is only one man in British politics who has been courageously consistent for his country, and that man is Nigel Farage.
And Patrick, of course, someone in the Conservative Party then leaked how sad it was that she did this when the party had nobly helped her with her mental issues, which I thought was a very low blow. But how important is her switching of parties?
Yeah, well, it's very important. I mean, the only real surprise about this is that it's taken us so long, to be honest with you, because Suella Braverman was someone who was incredibly outspoken and has been on the right side of history, not just when it comes to legal immigration, but also illegal immigration and those kind of Palestine hate marches that we've been seeing ravaging this country, or certainly were anyway, for a few years before. She was called all sorts of names. She was hounded out ultimately as well. So for her to go over to Farage is very much a visible sign, actually, of how a lot of what we might regard as true conservatives haven't really changed, but the party's left them. And so their natural home now is, of course, Reform under Nigel Farage. So that's where they're all going at the moment. The one thing I would say is that obviously Nigel Farage is seen as an anti-establishment figure. He is really a bit of an anti-establishment figure. They need to be a little bit careful, of course, that they don't just keep getting in old people who've already been in politics, because the problem, the critique that will be levelled at them is that these people were ultimately responsible for the demise of Britain when they were in power. So people are treating some of them with a bit of scepticism, but not Suella. She's always been very, very consistent on her views, and like I said, it's more the Conservative Party's left her than the other way around, really.
And it's also she's useful to help Nigel Farage deflect accusations of racism. I think that is also helpful. The BBC, speaking of racism, is under fire. It's been accused for a long time now of being anti-Israel, even anti-Semitic. It's just been ridiculous. But on Tuesday, it marked the World Holocaust Remembrance Day. But guess which word it kept not saying? Here it is. Have a listen.
Today marks Holocaust Memorial Day, a day for remembering the 6 million people who were murdered by the Nazi regime over 80 years ago.
Today marks Holocaust Memorial Day, a day for remembering the 6 million people who were murdered by the Nazi regime over 80 years ago.
Holocaust Memorial Day, a day for remembering the 6 million people who were murdered by the Nazi regime over 80 years ago.
6 million people. Patrick, what was the missing word and why was it missing?
Well, the missing word, Andrew, is, of course, Jews. And it was missing because there's an anti-Semitic, idiotic mind virus that affects our state broadcaster. Even on Holocaust Memorial Day, they're incapable of seeing Jews as victims. They also allowed a bloke wearing a keffiyeh to come on to one of their breakfast shows on Holocaust Memorial Day. Look, the BBC has been accused of institutional anti-Semitism. It allowed the son of a Hamas minister to narrate a documentary. They should be on high alert. And that will have gone through several different layers of production before going on air, which tells you everything you need to know about the entire mind virus at that institution. It really is devastating. It's no wonder that people are refusing to pay their licence fee in droves.
Yeah, what's telling there, Patrick, is that so many newsreaders read the same script, so many producers would have seen the same script, and not one said, wait a minute.
Yeah, obviously, this is it. I mean, it's obvious to you and I, dare I say, it's obvious to everyone at the wonderful Sky Australia. It'll be obvious to everyone at GB News, but it's not obvious to everyone at the BBC. And people should be very, very concerned about that. I think that tells you a huge amount, really, about what goes on behind the scenes. I mean, BBC staff at one point had a day where staff were encouraged to wear the colours of the Palestinian flag and go into work. You know, these are the kind of people that we are talking about, really.
Patrick Christys, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.